Hey everybody, Fifth Leaf here, bringing you the second episode of VGC as easy as 1, 2, 3, and we're going to be talking about team building today. But before we jump into that, I do want to talk about the giveaway that we started last video, and I'm going to be extending it one more video because nobody guessed it correctly. We only had about 3 guesses too, so the odds are in your favor. First person to guess this Pokemon right, and I'll put the stats on screen right now. First person to get this Pokemon right gets a battle ready shiny version of this Pokemon with held item. So after this video, after you learn how to build the team, it'll be ready for you to throw on that team. So make sure you get your guesses in below because this is the last video that you'll have a chance to guess. But without further ado, let's jump into the process of team building. Now, before we get into it really, I want to talk about something that I failed to mention in the last video. When you're playing in the VGC competitive format, you're taking your team of 6 Pokemon and you're actually playing in doubles. So it's 2 Pokemon out on the field at a time versus your opponent's 2 Pokemon. And another thing is you don't bring all 6 Pokemon. At the beginning of the match, you have a team preview of your opponent's Pokemon, which is all 6, and each player is only going to bring 4 Pokemon of their 6. So it's really important to know because when building a team, you build your team in like certain types of modes, right? So with multiple modes means you can kind of counter other teams better. So we just found out in the time period between last video and this video that the current format would be changing a little bit and more Pokemon are going to be allowed in this meta. Right now, the only legendaries that are allowed in the format are non-mythicals and non-box arts. So there's actually a lot of Pokemon that aren't available in the format. But in the next format, which is going to be Series 8, there will be some Pokemon that will be added. And we'll take a quick look at that. I have it up right here. These are all the Pokemon that are currently not legal. And most of them will be coming into the format in Series 8. So a big popular one will be Kyogre. Kyogre's going to be used a lot. We have Xerneas, which will be used a lot, and the Sun and Moon Legends will be used a lot, so especially Lunala. I'm probably going to build a team with Lunala, but we can get really in-depth about that another time. But it is something to think about that depending on when you see this video, whether we're in Series 7 or we're in Series 8, some of these Pokemon may or may not be legal. Now, there are several types of team types in Pokemon, and these are called team archetypes or archetypes. There's your basic team, which normally contains a grass, water, fire center, which means this is your core. This is very good for coverage. So for example, grass is weak to fire, so if you sense an incoming fire attack or you're up against a fire type Pokemon, and you can switch into your water type to counter that. There's a lot of really good coverage options between the 3 types. These teams are great for beginners as they offer some of the best coverage and can help you learn several types of techs. For example, this may teach you how to play more patiently when learning how to the timing on switching your Pokemon in battle and learning when that time to switch is right. On screen right now, I'm going to show you an example of one of those basic type teams with a water, grass, fire core. And right now we have a Moltres, Galar, Landorus, Therian, Comfey, Cinderace, Sceptile, and Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini is your water type, Cinderace is your fire type, and Sceptile is your grass type. And then you have other supporting Pokemon, and then you have your sweepers over here. So that's the most basic type of team, and it's obviously really good for beginners because you don't have to worry about running certain like techniques that you'll be learning about later on in the video. You don't really have to think too much compared to the other type of archetypes, which will lead us into our second archetype, which is the weather teams. Weather teams, I'll bring one up on screen right now. This is a rain team. Weather teams is, I believe, the second easiest type of team to build and to play. These teams are focused on utilizing weather conditions in battle, whether it's from moves or abilities in the game such as hail, rain, sun, and sand. The team's focused on direct synergies that correlate with the team's associated weather condition. So on screen right now we have a rain team. So we have Pelipper, which sets up Drizzle. Drizzle is an ability that sets rain on switch into battle. Ludicolo, which has Swift Swim in this photo, which means its speed is doubled in the rain. And yeah, so these abilities that cause weather changes aren't just, you know, These abilities that cause weather changes are drought, which is sun, drizzle, which is rain, sandstream, which is sand, and snow warning, which is hail. There are other abilities that are affected by the weather that don't just cause the weather, such as chlorophyll, which doubles your speed in the sun, sand rush, which doubles your speed in the sand, slush rush, doubles your speed in hail, swift swim, double speed in rain, sand veil, which evasiveness increases in the sand, rain dish, which heals you when rain's active, and there's many more. I think they're really easy to run for beginners, also because there's not a lot of thinking when it comes to techs. It is a little harder to run than your basic team, but again, it's not too bad in terms of a learning curve here. But next we'll talk about a team that is a lot harder to run than weather. You have to really be thinking during your matches, and you have to really be concerned about what's on the field at what times and your setup. For example, there's really no setup when it comes to your grass, water, fire core teams, and there's only minimal setup when it comes to weather, being just setting your weather. But the next type of team we'll be talking about is Trick Room teams. There's one right here. We have Butterfree, Dusclops, Hatterene, Rhyperior, Torkoal, and Didi. Trick Room is an ability that flips the dimensions of battle, and the turn order of Pokemon in the field changes from fastest to slowest into slowest to fastest, which means the slower the Pokemon, the earlier it will go in the attack pattern. There are abilities that make it easier to set Trick Room. For example, Indeedee has Psychic Surge, which means Pokemon cannot be fake out. And there are attacks like Follow Me that make it so that you can't target the Pokemon that is using Trick Room. Most of the time you want backup Pokemon that can operate outside of Trick Room, so like Pokemon that are a little faster than your typical Trick Room Pokemon. However, that's not always necessary. As you see right here, there aren't any Pokemon that are like super fast. I actually don't know the speed on Butterfree at the top of my head, but Dusclops is really slow, Hatterene's really slow, Rhyperior is really slow, Torkoal is really slow, and Indeedee is kind of like mid to slow. So the reason why this is a lot harder is not only do you have to be thinking constantly throughout your matches and knowing when Trick Room is up and being very like observant of when Trick Room is done and setting it back up. You got to understand that Trick Room is also a negative priority move, which means it pretty much always goes last. And you have to keep your Trick Room Pokemon alive in order to keep setting up and changing the way the battle goes. But not only that, but it's also the most difficult type of team to breed, because typically you want a lot of Pokemon with 0 speed stats. I don't know if you remember, but in last video we talked about how sometimes it is beneficial to have 0 stats in certain IVs or in certain individual values. So instead of a best, you would actually want a no good. So with all these Pokemon on board, you would actually want to have a 0 speed Dusclops. You'd want a 0 speed Rhyperior. You'd want a 0 speed Torkoal and a 0 speed Hatterene. So that way, if you have 0 speed, you will pretty much guarantee that your Pokemon will always go first every turn. Now, another reason why you want backup Pokemon is because of the Trick Room Ditto, so the Trick Room Mirror Match when you go up against another Trick Room team. Sometimes it's popular to take Trick Room and reverse it. So if your opponent uses Trick Room to slow it down and you use Trick Room to flip the dimensions back to normal, now the faster Pokemon will go first, and the Pokemon you brought as backup can then target your opponent's Pokemon faster. Really difficult to run, in my opinion, and really difficult to breed also. So I would stray away from building a Trick Room team right off the bat. Now, last we're going to be talking about my favorite type of team archetype, which is the Perish Trap team. Now, I'm going to bring one of those on the board right now. I didn't bring you one of my teams because I actually haven't built a 2020 Perish Trap team yet to the point where I actually like how it's built. Here we have a Lapras with Perish Song, Primarina with Perish Song, Gothitelle with Shadow Tag, we have the Raichu, Decidueye, and the Machamp, which is actually a pretty solid team for the most part. There'd only be a few things that I would change personally. Now, Perish Song is a non-damaging attack, which is also known as a status move. This attack affects all Pokemon on the field, and all Pokemon who hear this attack will faint in 3 turns unless they switch out of battle. And it doesn't matter if you use Protect, your Pokemon will still hear this song. So Protect does not prevent this. Now, you might be thinking, well, why wouldn't your opponent just switch their Pokemon out? Now, there are a couple reasons. Sometimes it's not safe to do so, whether their back Pokemon are weak to your Pokemon that you currently have on the board. But also, Perish Trap teams are called Perish Trap for a reason. You're trapping your opponent's Pokemon into the field so that they can't switch out unless they have moves like U-turn, Volt Switch, or Parting Shot. They can't be hard switched out, so your opponent can't go in, click Pokemon, and switch your Pokemon out. Now, the abilities that trap your opponent's Pokemon in include Arena Trap and Shadow Tag, and it makes it so that you always have control over what your opponent's Pokemon are doing. And like I said, the only way to switch out would be with the use of switch out moves such as Volt Switch, Parting Shot, and U-turn. Now, there are also attacks that trap your opponent's Pokemon in, such as Sandaconda G-Max's G-Max Sandblast. It's an attacking move that actually does a lot of damage, and it also traps them in Sand Tomb, which makes it so that they can't switch out of battle. In terms of team archetypes, there are more, but these are kind of like the most popular 4, and I kind of read them in easiest to hardest to run, in my opinion, because there's a lot of hard counters to Perish Trap, so I do believe it's a little harder to run than Trick Room, although it's a lot easier to breed and build than Trick Room. Now that you know what kind of teams there are, let's talk about how to build your very first team. So we're going to go over here to Pikalytics, and we're going to go over to Team Builder, and we're going to create a new team. This is for VGC 2021. So for beginner's sake and for the sake of the video, let's build a classic Grass, Water, Fire core type team. The most important part of any type of team building is making sure you have a core that synergizes well with each other. Basically meaning that they work well with each other and making it so that possible switches won't be as risky. Know what I mean? So let's start with our fire type. It doesn't matter who you start with, whether it's water, fire, or grass, but I like to start with the fire type because it's harder to find a lot of fire types that fit and synergize well with the other 2 typings. Right now, Pikalytics shows that Incineroar is the most used Pokemon in the format right now, being used on 39% of teams. It has the ability Intimidate, which on switch in, it lowers both its opponent's active Pokemon's attack by 1 stage. This means physical attacks from those Pokemon will do less damage until they switch out. Incineroar also has access to Fake Out, which makes the opponent's targeted Pokemon flinch and not use their attacks on that turn, although that does not work on Dynamax Pokemon. Incineroar also has the status move Parting Shot, which switches him out of battle while lowering the opponent's targeted Pokemon's attack and special attack stat. So normally I would try to teach you how to build outside the meta, but I feel like in the current meta that we're in, learning within the meta would actually make it a lot easier for you guys. So we're going to go and we're going to add Incineroar to our build. Now, Incineroar is really fun. There's a lot of really fun and wonky things you can do with them. So let's click on them, and this will bring up this little like Incineroar builder menu. Now it'll show you his most popular moves as well as, you know, the moves that he's not using as much. And then this is just a list of all moves. So in case the move you want to run on him that isn't like popular, you can still choose whatever move. So we want to run him with Fake Out because like I said, being able to flinch your Pokemon on turn 1 is very helpful, and it kind of lets you set up really easily. We definitely want to use Parting Shot because with his ability Intimidate, it kind of works really well. So what you would do is you would throw Incineroar out, get the Intimidate off, Parting Shot to get another stat drop on your opponent's Pokemon. Taunt makes it so your opponent's Pokemon can't use their non-damaging attacks, and Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz is just a damaging attack that we want to be able to use on a Pokemon just in case, you know, we have him as our last resort. But for this build, he is typically more of like the utility Pokemon. For his item, I like running the Shuka Berry. The Shuka Berry halves damage dealt from ground type attacks, but if you wanted to run anything else, you can. So like the Citrus Berry will heal a little bit of HP once you get down to 50%. The Figgy, Aguav, and Iapapa berries are all HP restoring berries as well that restore your health when you get to a much lower percent of health, but we'll talk about those a little later. Assault Vest is what you would put on Pokemon that don't have status moves or only have damaging attacks, and it increases your special defense. So we're gonna put him with the Intimidate ability because Blaze is trash, and for item we're gonna run the Shuka Berry because there actually is a lot of earth powers, earthquakes. There's a lot of that running in the current meta. As for our EV spread, we want to run something that is a little more on the bulky side, so we can actually get those switches off and we can use his utility a lot more. So with this spread right here, he's gonna have the careful nature, and he's gonna have 244 EVs into HP, 4 EVs into attack. I think that's a 68 into defense, 0 into special attack, 188 into special defense, and 4 into speed. It's gonna make him a lot more bulky, and he's gonna be able to utilize his moves a lot better. So that's how we're gonna set up our Incineroar for this team. Now that we have our fire type figured out, we can kind of knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. We need a Pokemon that's either a water type or a grass type that also synergizes well with Incineroar. Pikalytic's team builder will suggest popular teammates that are often on the same team, and at the top of this list we actually see a water type, and that's Tapu Fini. So we're gonna add Tapu Fini. Again, Tapu Fini is really big in the meta, so we're gonna kind of make a meta build here too, because I feel like it's easier to learn within the meta before you branch out and use non-meta Pokemon, because Pokemon that are in the meta typically are proven and shown to be consistent, whereas Pokemon that aren't currently in the meta like have a lot of weaknesses and drawbacks. And that's not to say that non-meta Pokemon are bad, but it's just easier to learn in this environment with meta. So Tapu Fini has 2 abilities, one being Misty Surge and the other one being Telepathy. Misty Surge creates Misty Terrain on switch in, and it lasts 5 turns and protects the Pokemon from status afflictions like burn, sleep, paralysis, etc., and halves the damage done by dragon type moves for Pokemon on the ground. So this is not including Pokemon that are flying types or Pokemon with levitate. Telepathy makes it so that Tapu Fini can't be hit by friendly Pokemon's attacks like Earthquake, which would target everybody on the field. So we're gonna go with Misty Surge. It is the most popular used. Telepathy really isn't that great, to be honest, especially with how bulky Tapu Fini is. We're not really worried about it taking an Earthquake. So we're gonna go with Misty Surge. Now, we can either go into item first or we can go into moves first. I like to do moves first because the item that I choose is usually based on what moves Fini has. So we're gonna do a setup. We're gonna do let's do a Calm Mind build. We're gonna do Calm Mind, which increases your special attack stages, and we're going to run Protect, Moonblast, which is a fairy type attack, and Muddy Water, which is a water type attack. Now with this build, Tapu Fini is pretty bulky, but it also has a decent special attack. So we can either run an item to increase its special attack with those moves, or we can run an item that kind of helps with its bulk. The most common item used on Fini seems to be Leftovers. However, I like to use Wiki Berry. Wiki Berry is an HP healing berry that will heal you when health is low. It's a one-time use, like all berries. But be careful with these HP berries, because if used on a Pokemon with the wrong nature, they'll confuse your Pokemon after consumption. I'll put a link below with the chart on what berries are safe with what natures. Wiki Berry is safe on Pokemon that don't have a negative special attack nature. So we have our moves picked out, and we have our ability picked out, and we have our item picked out. So what do we want to do for our EV spreads? This is a more bulkier set. This is 244 HP, 12 defense, 4 special attack, and 248 special defense. I like to use the modest build with the 252 HP, the 196 special attack, with 12 in both defense and special defense with a little bit of speed. This is my favorite to run. So this is going to be our Tapu Fini on this team. Now that the water type is made, let's look for a grass type. Now we need a grass type that will synergize with both Incineroar and Tapu Fini really well, which, to be honest, my favorite grass type, Amoonguss, does really well with these 2 Pokemon. Some people like to go with Pokemon like Rillaboom here, but personally I like Amoonguss on this mode. Amoonguss has a great amount of bulk and is a great switch in to replace both Fini and Incineroar. Having the dual typing of grass and poison, you can switch Amoonguss in for almost any Pokemon that threaten Fini and Incin. His ability Regenerator is really good. It recovers 30% of his HP every time you switch him out of battle. So he synergizes really well with the Incineroar in that aspect too. So what you would do is you would throw out Incineroar, get the Intimidate off, Parting Shot to get another stat decrease to switch into Amoonguss. Amoonguss would take the damage, Then you could switch Amoonguss out to throw back Incineroar and repeat the process, and every time you do that, Amoonguss will regain some of his HP. He has access to Rage Powder and Spore. Rage Powder is kind of like Follow Me, which is another attack that redirects your opponent's attacks to Amoonguss. Spore has a 100% accuracy rate, and as long as it doesn't get faked out or hit and killed, you will get the Pokemon targeted to sleep. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add Amoonguss. Oh, it's actually suggested. That's cool. We're gonna run him with Spore, Rage Powder, Protect, and I like using Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb kills fairies, which is very helpful. It also hits a lot of grass types, so it does a lot of damage to big threats. Now we're gonna use Regenerator like we talked about. Effect Spore isn't really great. The most common used item on him is actually Focus Sash, which is kind of weird to me because he is very bulky, although I guess there are some things he does die to, and you really do want to make sure he stays alive. But I prefer to use the Koba Berry. What the Koba Berry does is it's the same thing as the Shuka Berry, but instead of having the damage of ground type moves, it actually halves the damage dealt by flying type moves, which is Amoonguss's like major weakness in this format. Like, yeah, sure, he's weak to fire type, but there really aren't too many. There's like Cinderace and Incineroar and like Heatran, and then you occasionally come into like the Sun builds, but you probably wouldn't bring Amoonguss against the Sun build anyways. So we're gonna do the Koba Berry. In terms of his EV spread, we also want to go a little bulky here. And you see me picking these pre-set up EV spreads, and that's because in a future video I'm going to teach you how to calc, like how to really sit down and calc and pick your own EV spreads. That's going to be another video in the future. We're kind of just setting you up right now to learn how to build your Pokemon so that you can just get out there and have some fun. So we're going to build it a little bit bulkier, and by a little bit I mean a lot of bit. So we don't want anything invested in our attack, special attack, or speed. We literally just want HP, defense, and special defense. So I actually really like this first spread, the sassy one. He's gonna be really bulky and he's gonna survive pretty much anything. So with that, our main core is done. However, that doesn't mean our team is done. Remember, we need a Pokemon team of 6. We can't just bring in 3 Pokemon and win everything. After the core, I like to find out what my Dynamax target is. Incineroar and Amoonguss do much better outside of Dynamax. You really never want to Dynamax those 2 Pokemon. And Feeney's an okay target for Dynamax, but I feel like we can have better, right? I mean, we can Dynamax Feeney if we need to, but a much better target to me is I like Moltres Galar, and I also haven't built a team with Moltres yet. But actually, no, let's go Zapdos. I like Zapdos. Oh, he's already here. Cool. So some people like to figure out who their Dynamax is before their core, and that's totally up to the individual, like whatever you're comfortable with doing. But personally, I like to make sure I have a strong core before picking my Dynamax target. When picking a Dynamax target, I like to look for a Pokemon that I can use as a sweeper. I like to look for Pokemon that love items like Life Orb, Assault Vest, or Weakness Policy, all of which make you do more damage. But now that we have Zapdos here, let's talk about him. Zapdos is a very good target for Life Orb, a very good target for Dynamax, very popular target for Dynamax too. He has great synergy with Feeney. You know, if Feeney has to set up Rain, like if we have to set up a Dynamax on Feeney on a turn that we're in danger, and then we can set Rain with Max Geyser, Zapdos is going to do more damage because electric type attacks do more damage in the rain. And with Life Orb increases the power of the user's move by 30%, but the user also loses some of its HP. So typically you want to use Life Orb on like somewhat bulkier Pokemon, although there are some exceptions. Like it's very popular on like faster Pokemon too when you're building a full aggro team. So we're gonna throw Life Orb on this guy. Boom. Now in terms of moves, we do want to run Protect. There are a lot of rock falls happening lately. We want to run Hurricane. Hurricane isn't 100% accurate, but if you can find a way to set rain, it does become 100% accurate. We have Heat Wave and Thunderbolt because we need a move that we can at least have some kind of stab on. Stab is basically you do more damage if you share the type with the attack. So him being an electric type, he's going to do more damage with Thunderbolt, and him being flying type, he's going to do more damage with Hurricane. So we have the life orb, we have the moves. Now the ability we want to run, we can either run static or we can run pressure. Great, so let's go over here and click static. Now to show you what static does, we can go over here to Cerebi, and this is just because I want to plug Cerebi. I want to show you that Cerebi is very useful because we haven't really been using Cerebi today. So static is a Pokemon that's charged with static electricity, so contact with it may cause paralyze. So this Pokemon has a 30% chance of being induced with paralyze when using an attack that requires physical contact against this Pokemon. So if you use a physical damaging type attack, there's a chance that you may paralyze your opponent's Pokemon that target Zapdos. So we're gonna go with static. In terms of our EV spread, where is it? Let's click on him. Boom. The most common use is a really bulky max HP, max special attack set, and then the second most popular is a little bit in HP, a ton of special attack, and then max speed. I like to use, you know what, let's try out this first one. I haven't tried this type. I've built this timid one before, but I've never built this modest one. The modest nature increases your special attack, minuses your attack. And you don't really care about the attack drop because you're not going to be using physical attacks with this Pokemon. So let's click on modest, and that's how we'll run our Zapdos. In my opinion, I think this is where your creativity should really shine. You can either go with the straightforward approach and pick the Pokemon that would cover this Pokemon team's last remaining weaknesses, which looking at it, it seems like the last remaining weaknesses are actually Poison and Rock. But looking at this team, I love the idea of adding a sort of rain mode to this team. I know we kind of talked about making this like a grass, water, fire type core, which we did do, but I feel like adding the rain mode is also going to be really helpful and is actually a really good choice to what we have so far with this team. This will add synergy to Zapdos since electric type attacks do more damage in the rain. You don't have to utilize Tapu Fini to get Max Geyser off now, and it'll be like a secondary mode to the team, which I personally feel is important. As mentioned before, having multiple modes is really important to running a really efficient team. So I guess the first step in looking for a rain mode is finding a Pokemon that can set rain for you. Thinking about it, we have the ability Drizzle. So if we go over to Cerebi, we go over to their ability decks, and we look for Drizzle. If I can find it, Drizzle. It shows that there's only 3 Pokemon in Sword and Shield that have the Drizzle ability. We have Pelipper, Kyogre, and Politoed. Currently, Kyogre is not legal yet. He's not going to be legal until the Series 8 format, and we're currently in Series 7. And this is a team that I'm actually going to use on stream next week, hopefully. So we need to look at either Pelipper or Politoed. Pelipper has 60 HP as Politoed has 90, 50 attack versus 75. He's bulkier in terms of defense with 100 defense, whereas Politoed only has 75. And he also has a little more special attack at 95 versus Politoed's 90. Special defense is higher and his speed is higher, which the speed is really what I think we should worry about the most, especially since we can still build a pretty bulky Politoed since his HP is 90 and he still has 100 special defense and 75 defense. Really isn't that bad. So let's go with Politoed here. So we go back here. He's not suggested, so we have to type his name up here, Politoed. And there he is. He's added to our team. We click on him. Now, when he comes out, he's going to set rain. So we're going to need him with the ability Drizzle. Now, in terms of attack, we can run him with Parasong, but I don't think Parasong is really viable with what we're running on this team so far. So I kind of like running him with Protect, Helping Hand. I really honestly like Icy Wind. So, because Icy Wind covers multiple slots. Now, do I do the Scald or the Muddy Water? It's really up to you. Scald is a single targeting move that has a chance to burn, and Muddy Water hits both your opponent's Pokemon. So honestly, let's go with the Scald, and we can also do Muddy Water if we really want, but I kind of want to go more for coverage, so let's go with Icy Wind, and that will be our Politoed. Now, you can run him with a bunch of different items. Citrus Berry, which will heal him when he gets to 50%. Choice Specs, which will increase his the damage on his special attacks. However, you can only choose one attack until you switch out, and you don't usually want to run choice items on Pokemon with Protect. Wiki Berry, which we already have in use. Aguav Berry, which we could use. Let's do Citrus Berry. I like the idea of Citrus Berry because what we're gonna do is we're gonna make him a bulkier build anyways. So this is like HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense. Like this is literally just looking at his defenses, and having a calm nature, it really helps with that. So we're gonna go here. Now for our last Pokemon, we should really look at a Pokemon that will be accommodated by rain. So normally I like to look at a Pokemon with a Swift Swim ability. And there's two really good ones that come to mind. That's Ludicolo or Kingdra. We have Kingdra here. Like I said before, Swift Swim doubles your speed in the rain. So we have Kingdra, who has really good stats, and then we have Ludicolo. I like both of these options, but I feel a little safer with the bulkier build. So I think we're going to add Ludicolo. Now, we have to add him. So we want to run them with Fake Out. That'll give us a second Fake Out Pokemon to use, which will be very helpful and make it so that we don't have to bring Incineroar if we're kind of trying to run a rain mode, which frees up a slot for another Pokemon. We definitely want to run Protect. Maybe not. We're not going to run Protect. Yeah, 70 defense, 100 special defense, and 80 HP. Let's do Hydro Pump, Leaf Storm, and Ice Beam. This way, we're going to run an Assault Vest build, so we're not going to have Protect. So we're going to go to Assault Vest. So it looks like the most popular use is actually Weakness Policy. We're not going to do that. We're going to run Assault Vest with Swift Swim. And let's see. We can run Modest with increased special attack, increased speed. With 4 defense and 28 HP, which could be actually very helpful. Or we can just go full aggro, full speed, full special attack, 4 defense mode. I like to... What's his base speed? So his base speed is 70. All right, so I actually kind of like I like this one. Because, yeah, he'll be outsped by some stuff, but he'll also be able to survive a little bit with a little added bulk. So there's our Ludicolo. And so kind of what we built here is we built a basic fire, water, grass core, but we're also running a rain mode on it as well. So there's a lot of synergies between both modes, which is very helpful in terms of team and Pokemon selection. So yes, this is our team. And now that we have our team built, we can do one of two things. We can import this team into Pokemon Showdown, or if you don't want to play on Showdown, you can just go right into the game and start breeding your team, which is the next topic we will be discussing. Now, let me show you how to import your teams from Pikalytics into Pokemon Showdown the easiest way. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go up here to Export to Showdown, and you click it. It's going to have all your Pokemons, like what you just built. You highlight it all, you copy it, you go over to Showdown, and you go to New Team, Import or Export, paste, save, and there's your team. Now to use it on Showdown, first you got to validate it. You go to VGC 2021, validate. It is valid for Gen 8 VGC 2021. So we're gonna go back home, You can go into VGC 2021, and there's your team. And then you just hit battle, and it finds a random opponent for you. So there are the basics of building your team. Like, obviously you can go way more in depth with it, whether it's physically doing all the calculations for EV spreads by yourself, introducing new techs like the steam engine tech from Wolfie's Players Cup 3 winning team. But I want to start you with the very basics in building your team in a very easy way. So I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I really hope you learned a lot. And if you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to guess the Pokemon for the giveaway, as this is your last chance to do so. I will see you guys next week. I love you guys. Peace out.